All right. Hello, everyone. All right. So we're here again, another class. Good evening. I can see some of you already in the chat. Please drop a message for the others so they can join us. Binta got here first again. Binta, you deserve an award for this. Okay. I think you were here first yesterday. All right. So welcome back to today's class. Lamidi. Okay. Suzanne. Good evening. All right, so I hope you guys, had a wonderful day, and we're going to continue from where we stopped yesterday. Right, we're going to be, um, we're going to be doing some, hands-on coding. Okay, of course, with classes, showing some examples, and then we'll move on to uh, talk about asynchronous functions. Right, we'll move on to talk about asynchronous functions and callbacks. Okay. All right, so just give me a minute. Let me go ahead and share my screen so we can get started already. Okay, let's see. All right, so I think give me a minute. So while I'm actually sharing my screen and explaining, I would want you to, of course, feel free to ask your questions, right? So that we can take those questions on the fly. Uh, okay, still trying to share. I don't know why I'm having this permission. Share my screen, share my entire screen, share. Okay, good. I think this is, yeah, we are good. All right. So I have my browser, I have my terminal right here. I think I need the code editor. So let's quickly navigate to my desktop. Let's see, JavaScript. Okay, introduction to JavaScript. All right, let's open that up with my code editor. So I hope you guys are actually looking at the the class materials and the examples that we've tried out in the previous classes. By the way, if you have in the next 2 minutes, if you have any question from yesterday's class, drop it in the chat. For those of you that got here early, I'll take your questions. Edwin, hi, good evening. Right. Odbas, good evening. Okay. So please drop your questions in 2 minutes if you have any questions, so I can take that before we jump into, experimenting more with, classes. I would also love to open up. Oh boy. Okay. All right. Okay. So I would love to open up Excalibur, so we can try out some things here. Let's make this dark mode. Okay. All right. So let me look at the charts. I don't see any question there, so I believe we're good. Um, we're going to work with an assumption. Okay, so this is our assumption here. We simply want to use a class. Let me expand this screen so you can see it even better. Okay. Mm, no, I don't think that is good enough. Okay. All right. So this is our example. We are simply going to we're going to write a model, right? When I say model, I'm referring to a class, but I will explain why I call it a model. Okay, we're going to write a model or a class that can, capture a customer, right, and product information. Okay, customer and product information, and we're going to, capture things like inheritance, encapsulation, polymorphism, static methods as well. These things that we mentioned yesterday. So this is more like a refresher. Okay, so I'm going to be pretty fast, and I will definitely take your questions along the line. If you have any questions, drop it in the chat. Yeah, all right. So while I'm actually writing that, I would also explain. But let's just take it down. So basically, we are going to model a customer and products, right? Using JavaScript. Come on, classes. Okay, let me zoom in. All right, so we're going to model a customer and product using JavaScript, right? And we would also capture while capturing inheritance, encapsulation, and polymorphism. Okay, so that is what we're going to do. I also mentioned, static methods as well. So let me just put comma here and static methods. Okay. I'm sure you probably noticed the importance of using static methods yesterday. I actually explained that. We also tried it out in that example. So we are going to do that within the intro to JavaScript, but it's going to be in a different folder called practice sessions. Okay. All right. And let me zoom in. So let's go ahead and create a new file in here. So new file. Let's call this practice one. Okay. .js. All right. Hello world. I think this is big enough, right? Zoom in. Okay. So practice one. All right, so this is what we're going to do, right? Let's make it look this way. So we basically have a product. We can do things like get the name of the product, set the name of the product, and that is, how we are going to experiment with, polymorphism. So let's just put up a diagram here that would make it easier for some of you that might not be able to pick up every single word I say. So we have a product, and on this product, we should be able to get the name of the product, right? From the product model, we should be able to set the name. So this is encapsulation, right? So that we don't just say product.change name or something, okay? So we're able to use these methods to actually get those information, right? We would also do things like maybe get price. Let's say get price. So when we actually create this product, we're going to be passing in the name, the price, yeah, the name of the price, okay? By the way, you might have asked, why do I always like to bring up diagrams? It makes sense, for people to actually reason about things using diagrams. I would also advise you learn how to work with diagrams so you can easily explain whatever it is you're doing. Right? I'm an architect. I work as an architect professionally, as a solutions architect. So this is basically what I do, and it makes it easy for engineering teams and basically all the stakeholders, right, to understand things from this standpoint when you explain in a way that makes sense. Okay. So we have products, we have the name and the price, and we should be able to get name, set name, get price, right? Um, and yeah, we should be able to also set the price. If we're doing this for name, we should be able to also set the price, right? Set price. Okay, so these are basically methods, right? And of course, we know the params already, which are, name and price. Okay. And let's also say we should be able to do things like calculating, um, maybe calculating like total price, right? And we should also include the static methods for maybe converting the currency. Okay, so that makes sense. All right, so we're going to have a static method for converting the currency. Let's call it currency. Yeah, currency, not currency. Okay, so currency converter. That makes sense. Okay, so currency converter. This is going to be our static method. So we should be able to, take that price, add an exchange rate, and get our value, right? We should be able to take that price, add an exchange rate, and get our value. And we should also include a simple method that we can use to maybe compute for total price. So we pass in a quantity, right? We pass in the quantity, and we're able to get a price, a total price. Okay. So let's call it. Let's just say calculate. Calculate. Yeah, that's correct. Calculate the total price. Let's just say calculate total price. Okay, so if you think of any other method we can include, please drop it in the chat. But I think this is fine. I just want us to do something more realistic. Okay, so you're building a product and you're asking yourself, how do I work with a class, right? Where does it make sense to work with a class? Where does it make sense to use a static method? Where does it make sense to, write a regular method, write a method that encapsulates my data, right? So that is what we're trying to do here. So we basically have the product class. We're not doing any inheritance, as you can see, at least for now. Okay. And we simply have some methods that we can use to set name, get name, right? Set name, get name. These are these are encapsulated uh, methods, right? So we're basically practicing encapsulation here by doing this with methods rather than just setting it directly. And we can also use set name to update, right? So we can pass this in and then update with this. Okay. So that is what we're going to do before we then jump into talking about the customer model. Now, why do I call this a model? When you're building an application, you have your front end. So guys, listen carefully here. You have your front end. So let's call this front end. I want this to be more practical. Okay, so you can understand why we're doing this. We have our back end. Now, this is an example. You can actually have both of them sit together, okay? But for now, I'm trying to separate this, okay? So we have the front end and we also have the back end, okay? So now that we have the front end and the back end, the idea is on your front end, you have a form, all right? So let's call this a product form, all right? So a product form in here so this is a form, right? This should accept, let's just write a regular text. So I'm going to call this product form. Let's keep it here. So this is a form on your browser, and on that form you have two fields. The first one probably you want to call that product name, so placeholder. Okay, so you're asking them to enter the product name here, right? And then you also have let's paste that again. All right, so you have the price. Okay, and on that form you have the submit button. Okay, so you have the submit button. So let's just duplicate one of these. Control D. Okay, so you have create product. Okay, so yeah, so this is basically what we have. Okay, this is what we have, and what you're trying to achieve is to say when I click on create product, I should be able to send this data to my backend. All right. So when you send this data to your backend, of course, using we'll get to learn those things, right? So this is basically going to be sent to the backend from the front end. What we do these days is we get to use REST APIs, but we'll talk about that when we start learning, backend engineering, which is the REST API stuffs and the server stuffs. Okay, so we'll talk about that. All right. So when we're communicating with that backend, we are going to wrap this content, which is the name and the price, and we'll send this to the backend. Now, this is the point where in your backend code, you can simply write a class that would accept this product, right? And of course, create the product by saving it into your database. Okay. So which means your backend code is going to be saving to your database. Now, this is just an example. Don't forget, right? This is just an example. You have your database. Okay. So you have your database right here. And the idea is this backend should be able to save to your database. Okay. So this is what we're going to send in. When it gets to the backend, we then have to compose the product object. All right. So we should be able to have a product object and we can say something like new product equals product, right? Then the name of the product that we have passed in, which is product name. Okay. And we also have, let me reduce this a bit. I hope you can see it clearly. And product, let's just say price. So let's have some space. Okay. Let's take this off. So name and price. So this is exactly what we're going to do. When we pass in those information, we are then going to, of course, get the value of the product, get the value, right? And then we can save that into our DB. We're going to create something like this right now. If you have any questions, I'm looking at the chat. Okay, drop your questions in the chat if you're confused. I like to explain this with flows so that it will be easy for you to understand. On your browser, you have a form that you have created, okay, with two input fields, right? Product name, product price, and then you have the create product button. So the idea is you send this over to the backend. Don't bother yourself with how to send this to the backend. You'll get there. If you don't know how to do this already, just ignore that for now. But on the back end, you now have your class. Your class will pick up that record, right? You pass in the values into that class, and you already have the code within that class that would save to your DB. Okay, this is how you can basically work with classes, and in this context, we call it a model, right? So you have created that model, and that model should be able to compose new new products, right? Of course, from the instance. So this is the instance we're creating. We just created an instance of a product, which is called new product. Okay, so we can simply say new product dot. So this is where it comes in: new product dot get name dot set name dot get price dot set price, right? New product dot calculate total price. You pass in a quantity, right? So you can pass in the quantity, right? If you're calculating total price, which means you're saying the price multiplied by the quantity, okay? And then you have a currency converter. So for the currency converter, you probably so for the currency converter, you probably want to add something like the exchange rate. Okay. So how do you want to use the currency converter? We can say we expect to pass in, the price, because it's a static method. We expect to pass in the price and the exchange rate. Okay. So we can then multiply, the price by the exchange rate. We are going to experiment, and we're going to build this right now. How many of you have questions before I jump into writing code? If you're ready to write code with me, or you're ready for us to just jump straight into the code, drop a message in the chat. Let me see how many of you are following me. Drop a message in the chat. Just say, you can drop anything. It can be an emoji. Just let me know that you're listening, and we're good to go. If you understand the flow, if you understand what we're trying to achieve, just drop a message in the chat. It can be any message. It can be an emoji. Drop that in the chat. Okay. If I get 2 messages, I will just jump straight into implementing. How many of you do I have on this call? 31 of us. Okay. All right. We are ready. Let's go. So I have this file I have created already. Okay. So now we are simply going to create the class. Let's start by creating the class of products, which is just let's do this here. So class of products, right? And within the class of products, we have our constructor. Remember, we have the name, and we have the product. Okay. The name and the price. Yeah, so that should be the price. Okay. So now that we have the name and the price, let's go ahead and just set what we can have in here, which is saying that the value of name should be equal to what is passed in. Most times you might want to use an underscore, so you can have like a clear difference. It doesn't really matter. You can actually choose to change the name. You can say product name, okay, equals name, which means within your code here, you are going to be referencing the product name with product name, right? So it must not be the exact thing you have here. That's what I'm trying to point out, okay? And I would rather use the underscore, okay? So this dot price, price, so dot, remember, equals price. Okay, so now we have our constructor set. Let's go ahead and perform that encapsulation using getters and setters. Okay, so right here we can say get name, all right, and we can simply return this dot name. Okay, so that is how we are going to get that name. So if we say product one equals new product, and we pass in the name, so it can be maybe a football, and the price is like maybe 500 naira. Okay, so I can simply say product one. Let's just say console.log and the product one. Okay, so now this is exactly how we have been able to construct this. We also have a couple of other things that we need to capture here, such as set name, get price, set price. Okay, so let's go ahead and capture all that. So we have set name. All right, so we have the name, and we can also return. By the way, for the set name, you don't want to return something. You probably want to set, okay? And when you're setting that, you want to pass in the name, the new name. So this is more like we're trying to update that particular record, okay? Yes, you can return, but that is probably not necessary in this context. So I can just say this dot underscore name, right, equals the new name that I pass, okay? So right here, if I say product one dot get name, we're going to get the default name that we set when we pass this in. Okay, so let's just try this. Let's see what we have. Okay, before we continue, if I say cd practice, I want to go into that folder first. All right, and now I can simply say node practice one. Okay, so we have football, which was the name that was set when we do get name, right? So if I now say product one, product one dot set name, so I'm going to pass in a new name. I'm changing the product name to football. Let's just say blue football. Okay, so if I go ahead and I print again product one dot get name. All right, so now you see we have blue football, so the new name. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. We're going to proceed now. We're able to first, create. Oh, I see. Someone is saying my screen is frozen. Uh, okay, apologies. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. We're going to take that again. How many of you can see my screen now? Please let me know in the chat. And I'm going to repeat this again. How many of you can see my screen now? How many of you can see my screen now? And I'm moving things around here. Is it still frozen? We can see it now. All right, good. Let's just go over this again, okay? I hope we're able to follow that train of thought again. So I'm going to create this product again, and then we're going to test those set name, get name, and those things I was actually explaining. Okay, so let's start all over again. We have the product, right? We have product. I don't know where you actually but I saw the message trail here was very long. So let's repeat this. We have the product and we have our constructor. Okay, so we have our constructor, we set the name and the price. That is what we expect. So we just say this dot name, and I'm using an underscore so I can also separate, make it obvious that this is the name I have within my class, and this is what I expect when I pass it in. So I can also say this dot price equals price, right? So now we're going to say get name. Okay, so when we say get name, we're simply going to return this dot underscore name, which is the name that we have set already. When I say set name, this is simply going to accept a new name. So we can update this dot name equals the new name that we pass in. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and test this. I'm going to create a new instance. I will say let product one equals new product. We'll pass in football or any other thing, right? And then we'll pass in the price. Let's put $1,000 there, 1,000 naira. So if I say product one dot get name, this is going to give me the name that we have set right now, which is football. By the way, I forgot to print this, so we have to say console.log product one dot get name. All right. So if I print this, we have football. If I proceed to update this name by saying product one dot set name, of course, I have to pass in the name, right? So if I call this red football, okay, this is going to change the name of that product. And yes, I can say console.log product one dot get name. Okay, so I have updated it, and when I run this again, you see now we have the new name. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Right, good. So I hope that makes sense. So we create a product class, we put in the constructor, we set get name, and these are basically encapsulation. So encapsulation, all right. So set name and get name, right, and we're able to use this to alter the initial value that we have passed in, right. We're able to add a method there that can actually change that value. All right. So this is what we have been able to do. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for get price and set price. Okay. So that is going to follow the same convention, get price. This is simply going to give us the price. So I can say return this dot underscore price. All right. And I can say set price with the new price. So the new price, by the way, you can say new price. Okay. So it makes sense. I can say new name. All right. So if I'm setting the price, this would just be this dot price equals new price. Okay. So if I go ahead, I already have the price here. So if I simply say console.log, maybe I can take this off. I can just say get price. Okay. So this is expected to show us 1,000. Let's save properly. All right. So this says 1,000 bucks, 1,000 naira, right? And yeah, remember that now that we have this, we can simply say product one dot set price, and we can set a new price. Let's say 10,000 naira, since the economy is getting yeah. So let's go ahead and say console.log product one. That's product one. Okay. Dot get price. Now we've done that update. Let's see what the new price looks like. So if I save and I run this, now you see initially we have 1,000 naira. Now it is 10,000 naira. This is very practical looking at the situation of things. So this is how we basically change the price from 1,000 naira to 10,000 naira within the space of 3 months. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and talk about polymorphism using the other method that I showcased earlier. So let's look at this, right? You see, we have calculate total price. We have currency converter. Now, for the calculate total price, we can actually, implement this method in such a way that it can be overridden by, a different like a child class, right? So we can have calculate total price and change the way we want to calculate that total price based on the class that is inheriting from product. Okay. We are probably not going to do that, but I'm just going to give a little bit of context as to how that would work. So if we're able to bring in calculate total price, I said we're going to pass in the quantity. So let's go ahead and say calculate total price. Okay, we'll pass in the quantity. All right, and we can simply return the so we're going to say this dot underscore price, right, multiplied by the quantity. Okay, so that's what we're doing. We can also say let total price equals this, and then we'll return total price. Okay, now whichever way you choose to write your code, it's fine. We can simply return this and have one line instead of having double line of code here. This is quite straightforward. Okay, so when you call this, we can simply say calculate total price, and we'll pass in 5. Okay, so what this is going to do, remember, we need to have product one dot calculate total price, and then we'll pass in 5. Let's see, I think we have a bug somewhere. Okay, that's fine. All right, so now we have this. This is how we basically calculate total price if we need to purchase 5 footballs, right? 5 football. All right, so I can simply say console.log. Now this is going to give us that total price, or we can just make this look let total price equals this console.log total price. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Let me look at the chat for questions. All right, so now this is going to calculate that total price. When we say 10,000 naira times 5, of course, we're getting 50,000 naira, right? And that is how you calculate the total price. So you can always change the value here, and that would, of course, perform that computation. All right. Okay. Next, we are going to look at the currency converter, where we can include the price and the exchange rate. This time around, we're making it a static method. So let's call that currency converter. Okay, so we're going to add the price and the exchange rate. Okay, so now this is what we have: the price and the exchange rate. It's static, meaning that whether you choose to create a new instance or not, you can actually call the currency converter directly, right? So I can simply go ahead and say product.currency converter, put in the price, the price here, I can simply say product one dot price. We want to convert. So let's assume that this is expected to actually be in dollar, right? But now we want to perform currency conversion by taking the value that we have here, which is the price of uh change to 10,000 naira, right? We're trying to $10,000, for example. Okay, so we're trying to now convert this to naira. Okay, so which means what we can simply do is to pass in we've passed in the price, the exchange rate. I would simply say maybe 1,400, right? And we're going to get that exchange rate in NGN, right? So that's my variable name. Okay, so let's just say console.log exchange rate in NGN, right? But remember that we are yet to put in the formula here. I hope you know what is happening here. This is a static method, right? Static currency converter, which means we don't need to call this from we don't need to call this from an instance specifically. We can just go ahead and call the class itself, which is product.currency converter, and it's able to figure that out whether you're calling it from a class or not. It's able to work perfectly because it's a static method. So you pass in the price, which is the product one dot price, and then the exchange rate. So you can use this at any point in time. But of course, we need to put in the formula here, which is simply to return the price, right, multiplied by the exchange rate. Okay, that's all you need to do. You return the value gotten from the price multiplied by the exchange rate. So if we go ahead and we log this, let's see, we basically have this is how many zeros do we have here? This is oh boy, that's 14. Oh boy, man, 14 million naira. Crazy. Okay. Yes, that is the price of football. 14 million naira in 2025. Okay. So some of you probably need to stop playing football. All right, that's funny, but it can actually happen, Yeah. So that is simply how we work with static methods, right? So someone said, when do we make methods static? Yeah. So just like the example I gave right now, when you need to use the method without necessarily having to create an instance, okay? You know there are some methods you might need to use, but you also want to be able to use that method even when you don't have an instance of that class. Okay, so I gave an example here. We have products, right? And then we have these static methods. So even if we don't have an instance of a product, we can go ahead and as well use the the static method. So if I take off everything you see we have here, so now we don't have any product, and right here I can just include the price of a particular product. I can call this maybe product is for 500, right? I can still use this and I would get my response even without creating a new instance of that particular class. You see, I don't have an instance. I'm just calling the class directly and performing my calculation without an instance. So, Butch Tech, I hope I answered your question. Let's bring this back. And we're going to proceed to the next model here, or the next class, which is the customer, right? We're going to create a customer class, and we should be able to perform the same set of action: get name, get email, set email, and maybe a static class to send a promotion, right? Which is just a regular message. Now, this is very similar to what we've done, so I'm going to be super fast, just to show you yeah, just to repeat what we've done and make it sink in. Okay. Once we are done with that, we'll proceed to something even more practical, right? So this is yeah, this is basically the same thing, right? So for those of you that probably missed out on anything we did here, you can ask the question this time around. So this is practice 2.js. Okay. So now we're going to create a customer class. Let's move to our diagram. Let's duplicate this. All right. Okay, so this time around is going to be a customer, and our customer would have a name and email. All right, so we should be able to do things like get name, set name, get email. So we're basically repeating exactly the same thing as I said earlier. Okay, And the only method we're going to have here would simply be to send promotion. Okay, so let's do that. It's a static method. So send promotion. Okay, so send promotion, we need to put in the customer information. So it can be customer, right? And I'm going to also include the promotion, which is the message. Now, the thing about the customer here is that we're going to pass in the full customer object, and then within the send promotion, we'll take what we need exactly. We're going to pass in the full, customer object in here, right? And let me show you what I mean. So we have a class of, customer. So class customer. We have our constructor, name, and email, right? And we simply say this.name equals name, just like what we've done. This.email equals email. All right. Remember, within your constructor, you can set some base actions if there are some things you want to be able to do, right? You can actually set base actions here. So this is to say that if you create a new instance, that moment where you created that instance, you can perform an action. So if I say customer one, which is let customer one equals new customer. Okay, let's pass in the name John and the email of that customer, john@email.com. Okay, let's go ahead and just be consistent with this. All right. Okay, so if I say customer one, yeah, by the way, so I can simply go ahead, run this practice2.js. So when I run practice2.js, you see I'm able to execute this. All I've done right now is to initialize it. I didn't call any function, but because I have this action taking place here, it's able to print that particular value, which is set base action. So if you are calling a function, to do something or whatever it is you're doing within the constructor, it will be executed on initialization of a new instance of that particular class, right? So we don't need that for now. Let's go ahead and put in set name and get name. Okay, so get name is simply going to give us return this dot underscore name. Set name, we're going to pass in a new name. All right, so let's put a comment here to say this method changes the name of the customer. All right, so we're simply going to say this dot name equals new name. Okay, all right, so let's also say set email and get email. Okay, return this dot email. Come on, Mav. Email. All right, so I think that should be underscore email. And set email is going to just say new email. This dot email equals new email. All right, so this is what we have now. Let's go ahead and try this. If I say customer one dot get email, remember you have to print this so you can see the value because we're simply returning, not login. Okay, so if I should run this, you see we have the email. I should say set email, and I probably just add a new email to maybe John Mark at email. Let's change this to outlook.com. All right, so now I have set this. I need to set this outside here, and then I need to go ahead and get this again. So let's do get email. Now that I've changed the value, I run this. Initially we had John Mark, but now we have initially we had John at email. Now we have John Mark at Outlook, right? Great. So I can simply run this before, so you can see the two options, right? So if I should run this now, you see we have John at email and John Mark at Outlook. So this is pretty basic. What we've done before. Maybe one last thing would be the promotion. So static send promotion. That was what we called it, promotion. Okay. So we have the customer and we also have promotion. right? So we can simply say console.log. Let's just log this in here. Remember, I told you the customer you're going to pass in is a full object, which means I can simply say customer, which is the class, dot send promotion. Now I can pass in customer one because that's a full customer, and the promotion is hello, you just got yourself a new a free monthly subscription. Let's just say sub. All right. So we passed in the full customer one, and what we're trying to do here is to print that that value. Okay. So we need to compose that value. So we can simply say message let message equals. Let's compose that with the template literal. So we would say customer, which is expected to be the whole thing. So I can say customer dot get name. I want to get the name of the customer from here. So let's say hi customer. Okay, dot get name. You just oh, we need to bring in the promotion, which is the message. Okay, so let's bring in the promotion. That's the message, and this is what we have now, right? So let's go ahead and probably return the message. Okay, so in here we can simply say console.log, or we can just say let promo equals this, and we can simply say console.log promo. Okay, so we passed in the full customer one, but in here we're able to use customer one, and we grab the get name that we already have. Okay, so if I should run this, let's see what we get. It says, "Hi John." Oh boy. I think yeah, I should take off hello probably. So I'll just say, you yeah. Okay, so let's go again. Hi, John. You just got yourself a free monthly sub. Now, this is basically how we are working with a static method, right? And we're able to create something similar to what we've done already. Now, this time around, we are going to build something even more detailed, right? You'll be asking yourself, how can we have something more practical? Say you want to build a software, a particular product, you have users, you have admins, you have regular users, okay? Then you probably have yeah, you're trying to model that. You have admin, you have regular users, probably you have loan, right? You are trying to build like a software for you know um uh, like a loan management solution where you have the loan, you have customers, you have payments. We're going to model that right now. That's going to be a lot, but yes, since you already understand some of the basic things I'm doing now, that would be much better. Okay, so we're going to move fast. That will be practice 3. So I'm going to check the chat for your questions. Let's just create a file first, practice3.js. Okay, all right, so let's jump into the chat. Let's see your questions. Why didn't you write function in front of get name and set name? Oh, those are getters and setters. It's not necessary to put in function first. Okay, they are getters and setters. That is what we have created there, and it's not necessary. It's not necessary. So you can actually go ahead and use some other. It's a method, right? I think that would be the best explanation here. It's a method. Okay, so when you're working with a method, you have to treat it like a method. So take a look at this. Even when I created this option, I did not write function, right? It's a method. So a method is a function that you have within a class. Okay. So someone said, can we choose to make all methods static? Yes, you can. But if you make all methods static, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. Because let's assume you create a particular method where you need to work with the value that you have as the parameter, like the email, right? So let's assume you make this method static and you are collecting that this dot email, but then you don't really have a this context because you did not create a new instance. Then that is going to tell you undefined, right? So the static methods should be methods that are not really dependent on the values from an instance of a class. Do you understand? They are not dependent on the values you get from that instance. So I would explain this better with this example. We said set promotion. We are working with the customer and the promotion. We have to pass this in, right? Let's assume that I decide to say I don't want to pass this in. I want to simply say this dot maybe name, right? That's underscore name. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do. I'm just saying this dot name, but now remember, I'm working with a static method. I actually called this from the customer. Do you understand? I did not call this from customer one. Okay, so if you're calling this from customer one, all right, yeah, but if you're calling this from customer, and customer is not an instance, customer does not have a this context, right? So it is going to fail if I should take off these other items and I try to use that. So you see, it fails. It tells me customer one is not defined, right? Which is what I was trying to pass in earlier. But by the way, let me go ahead and change that. Just make it a string. And if I should run this, it says hi undefined because of course this dot name is undefined, right? So that is why you see we have undefined right there. Let's take that off, change this back to what we have earlier. So let's, yeah, save. And I hope I explained that, Butch Tech. Which other question do I have there? None. Right. You guys are actually following. That is awesome. Okay, so for our next example, we don't need to actually come up with a diagram first, so we don't spend too much time. What we are simply going to do is to jump into creating our user parent class. We are then going to have two child classes. One will be our regular user, one will be our admin user, and they will both have different functionalities. Okay, so that we can actually see how to apply this, in a real scenario, right? You have a user, you have a regular user, you have an admin user. One should be able to place order, for example, or view their profile or perform some actions. I think place order makes sense. And then the admin user, for example, should be able to add the product, right? So you have one person adding the product, that is the admin, and you have the other person placing orders, which is the regular customer, but they are both users. Okay, they are both users of your platform. So let's start by creating the base user model or user class, whatever you call it. All right, so we're going to have class of user. We're going to have a constructor in here. All our users should have a name and email, right? Ideally, that is what we expect. So this dot name equals name. Come on. All right, and this dot email equals email. Okay, so this is what we have for now. So let's go ahead and perform those various actions like getting the name and getting the email. So let's just say get name, and we'll simply have to return this dot underscore name. Okay, so set name. If we're changing the name, right? So we'll simply say this dot underscore name equals new name. We have to include new name in here. All right. So now we say get email. Okay, return this dot underscore email, set email. So yeah, we're not returning, we're simply saying this dot email underscore email equals new email. Okay, so let's go ahead and say new email. All right, so now this makes sense. Since we have been able to do this, let's just say both customers, both users at least should be able to view their profile, right? So let's just say view profile. All right, and we're simply going to say console.log user. We can just get some information about the user here by saying, remember, you should use the template literal instead. Template literal. So I'm going to say this dot underscore name, right? I would say, and of course, let's bring in the email as well. So this is your email. This is your name, your email. So for the email, this dot underscore email. Okay. So we're just trying to use this to reference, that particular user profile. If we create a new user, so let's say user one, new user, and we'll simply pass in the name as Mav, and the email as me at mavmagic.com, for example. If we go ahead and say console.log user1.view profile, just like this, I should be able to run this. So that's practice 2. Let's change it to 3. and we should be able to get user mav email blah blah blah. So this is what we get from viewing the profile. We set console.log, so at least maybe what we would have done here is to return. That makes more sense. So if I save and I run that again, now we have user mav and email blah. Okay, so good. This is basically how you work with the user, but we don't want to work with the user directly. We want to create child classes where we can have regular user and of course admin user. So let's go ahead and create a class, call this regular user, and we'll say extends, right? User. Okay, so that extends user. So we can have our constructor with the name, of course, and email. Okay, and we just simply need to say super with the name and email to say get this from the parents. Okay, and we then need to say this dot. Now we are including a new option here. We're going to call that type, right? And we're making this default. We're making this default. It's not assuming it's flexible or dynamic. We can simply say type, right? But this is not going to be flexible, so we're adding it here as a default. As you can see, now we are going to add an additional action here for the user. So I'll say additional action for the user, and only the user will be able to perform this action. Okay, so we can simply say place order. Now, this is how you actually model something in such a way that when you're building your platform, it makes sense that okay, we have a regular. This is a regular user, and a regular user should be able to perform this action. But then, if we have an admin user should not be able to perform this action. It makes programming, of course, thinking about the whole thing easier for you as a programmer, as a JavaScript programmer. So, if we have place order, and then we are expecting to say we should be able to pass in the product. Now, it means this is going to function, right? This is going to function. We have passed in the product that we want to place order for. We don't know what that product might be, by the way. So we can simply pass in, a product from the previous class we worked on, right? So let's just go in here. Let's just look at what we have. We have this for the product. We can just copy this, right? We can just copy this from here. For now, let's just paste it in here. So we have customer, no, not here, sorry, 3, yes. So we have the customer, then we have our user. So our user should be able to place order, that's the regular user, and our order should be a product, right? So I'm simply going to return, and I would say with the template string, the product with the name, and this is where I'll put the name of that product, right? So I'll say products. That should be product. Let's not do products. Okay. So let's just say products. Okay. So products dot name, right? So I'm going to say product dot name. And why exactly am I saying product dot name? I think I would show you, because if you look at this, you see we have a product and our product has a name, right? So I'll say product dot name and the price, right? So which is product dot price. By the way, I don't think this is the right thing to do. We should say get name, remember, and get price. Okay. Okay. So the product with the name has the price of this. Okay. And we can simply go ahead to say order has been placed. Okay. So let's just put a full stop there. We'll say order was placed successfully. All right, so let's leave that. We just created a way to place an order, but we need to verify this, okay? So let's start by creating a regular user, an instance. So we would say let user1 equals a regular user. This user expects a name and email. So name John Doe, email johndoe@gmail.com. All right. So if we simply say console.log user1 get name, the idea is that we are going to see the name of the user. But let's see, we have an error, right? So let's figure out where the error is coming from. Obviously, I forgot the new keyword here. Okay, let's run this again. So we have John Doe, which is the name of our regular user. If I go ahead to say John Doe, so let's say John Doe, sorry, that's user1 dot place order. Now we need to pass in a product, but we don't have a product. So let's create a product. Okay. So let product one equals new product. Name of the product. Let's call that ice cream. Okay. And the price of that product. Let's say vanilla. I don't know. To be honest, this is me trying to spell vanilla. I don't take this thing, so please don't laugh at me. So vanilla ice cream, and we have a price of 1,000 naira. Okay, I think I learned that ice creams are very expensive. So let's just say 100,000 naira. All right, so we're going to place an order, and here we're going to add a product, right? So that should be product one. So we passed in the entire product because that is what we expect, right? We expect a full product, and we're now able to get the name of the product and the price, based on what we've passed in here. Remember that we actually return this, so which means we expect a result. Let's just say let result equals this, and we can say console.log results, right? Based on what will be returned from here. So let's go ahead and run this, see if we have any error. We don't have any error. So it says the product with the name vanilla ice cream has the price of 100,000 naira, and the order was placed successfully. All right. So that is simply adding the admin user, the regular user, sorry, and we're able to place an order with the regular user. We are going to add the admin user right now, and we'll simply add a method. It's going to be a static method that we can use to add products, right? So let me quickly look at the chat to see if we have any questions here. So why did you not return the email? Okay. Why did you not return the email? Which of the email are you referring? Oh, yeah, yeah, because we did not, need to use that, right? But if you want to do that, no problem. Now, when you say returning the email here, remember we already have get email in the parent. And of course, when we have used super, it means we can actually perform this because it extends it. If this is what you are referring to, we already have get email in the parent. So we don't need to do the same get email here. It would basically work. So it's going to work because if I simply say console.log user1 get email, right? So we already have that in the parent class, and that's what you have in the parent class basically works for the child class. I mean, we can also say console.log log user1.view profile, right? It's in the parent class, and it's expected to work for the child class as well. So you see we have the name, the email, and of course the profile. Okay, even though we did not include these things in the regular user, as you can see, it is not included here because it inherits from users. From user, we have those methods assigned to it automatically. All right, hope I explained that, Pinter. Hope that answers your question. Is there a way these getters and setters can be automatically generated based on the constructors? Yes, there are tools you can use for some of those things. Okay. Um, if you created a second instance of new user, say user two, would it override it? No, it won't, right? That is separate, so it won't. It won't override Kobe. Okay. It will not override Kobe. So if I say I copy these items here, and of course I just say user two, regular user John Mary, and we have John Mary. Okay, so let's just say we have console.log, so we can actually use this to separate, what to print to make it clearer. So that's just to separate what we have here. So if I save, by the way, we need to first change this, of course, to. All right, let's run this. Okay, so now you see we have the first user, John Doe, the second user, which is John Mary, and it doesn't override. Okay, so I hope that answers your question as well. Um, I need to also include one more item here. I actually wanted us to even build something like a loan solution, but I don't have time. I actually have a meeting right now. I'm even 3 minutes late, unfortunately. Let's go ahead and include the admin. Right. Now, one thing you should understand, and please, this is very important. Most of you end up picking up, how to you end up picking up materials that might leave you confused. Okay. It's important that you learn how to actually model with classes very well because every single thing you can think of, which is an object, can be modeled with this pattern, okay? Which is why object-oriented programming is good, especially for beginners. It makes it easier for you to actually learn to model objects. You can model any objects, with OOP, okay? And it is easy for you to, of course, understand how to reference or, construct multiple objects together, right? And use them together, okay? So please make sure you practice with these class materials and, just tell yourself, what do I want to model? I want to build a QR code solution. I want to build a simple payment model, right? I should be able to make payment, right? Make transfer, okay, withdraw funds, right? You model those things with classes, you learn how to program very well with that. You become very fluid and very, professional when writing your class codes, okay? So please learn how to do that and make sure you practice regularly, okay? So we have the admin user. We are also extending the user. The only thing that the admin user would basically do, we are still using the same constructor, the same super. We only need to change this to admin, right? Um, Remember, we did not even try to check for the type. We never try to check for the type. Okay, so we should, if you can actually include the type thing. So let's go back to the regular users here. If you actually include, like, get type, for example, and you return this dot type, okay, not necessary, but if you include that, you can as well go ahead here and simply say console.log user1.get type. Okay, so if I should do this for user one and of course user two, it means you're going to see the type, which is going to be regular. Okay, you're going to see regular, that is the type. Now for this guy, I can simply go ahead and let's just copy the same code we have here. All right, that is for the admin. So get type is going to return that type. And now the admin should be able to add a product. So if the admin is adding a product, for example, we can say, what is the product name? All right. And we can also choose to include that detail here, by simply returning a message that says, adding product with the name of the product, right? The name of the product name. Okay, and now we're adding this product name as an admin. Okay, so the admin is the one adding this product. A user should not be able to add a product, right? So if a regular user tries to add a product, that doesn't even exist in the first place there. Okay, so you can't add a product here. Only the user should, only the admin should be able to add a product. So let's go ahead and create an admin. We're going to call this admin Jerry Doe. Okay, Jerry Doe at Gmail. So this is admin one. Let's copy, paste. Now, they can all view profile. They also have the get type thing, right? So if I should run this, let's see what we get. So we said admin one. We forgot to change this. This is admin user, not regular user. So let's run that now. You see, Jerido is an admin, and now Jerido should be able to um add products. Okay, so when Jerry Day is adding a product, the name of the product can be let's see. All right, the name of the product can be let's say I don't know, meat pie. That's quite weird. I think I'm kind of craving meat pie. Okay, so if I should go ahead and run this, adding product meat pie as an admin. Now this is a very simple way to model your to write your business logic, or to write your business model, or to create models around whatever it is you're trying to build, right? I want us to spend some time. I want us to create a simple management software, a very simple management class or code. You're going to have multiple classes. Let's say you have a loan class, a customer class, a payment class, and then you are able to do things like get customer, get interest rate, set duration, get status, okay, calculate monthly payment or something. If you want me to give you that as a very simple take home assignment, unfortunately, I won't have the time to review everybody's work, but that would actually make you learn, so that when I provide like a solution, you guys can then compare it with what you have and make the necessary corrections if you're having some errors. Okay. If you want me to do that, I will proceed to, share that with you. Um, we were supposed to cover asynchronous, functions. Okay. We're supposed to cover asynchronous functions. Um, but unfortunately, I need to be in a meeting right now. So we are going to cover asynchronous functions using callbacks, using promises, using async and await. That will be shared with you. I will probably create a short material and a short video. Okay. And I will share that with you before the week runs out. Um, yeah, so that we don't need to cover that again next week. We can move on to the next topic next week. So expect that from me. Async await, promises, and of course callbacks. Okay. Um, yeah, so expect that from me. Then we can also take a quick revision on those things I just mentioned. Right? We can take a quick revision on those things I mentioned before we start the class officially by Monday next week. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure you understood some of these details and how to model realistic objects, and I hope this was clear. If you have any additional questions, I will spend the next 1 minute or 2 minutes taking those questions. um yeah, but if you don't have any question, then we can uh, we can call it a night. Okay. All right then. So I don't think we have any questions. I believe most of you understood, what we've explained so far. If you're not on the Top Universe Discord server, please make sure to join that server so you can also share your questions and, of course, join others, that are learning on the server, building and working on products and projects together. Okay. So do have a wonderful night, guys. I'll see you next time. Good